Hi, my name is Ryan Huguan. I'm the HR journalist at After School Matters. And today we are presenting the harassment and non-discrimination training, and I will let my colleague introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Jessica Berg. I'm the other HR generalist here at After School Matters, and I am pleased to assist with presenting this harassment and non-discrimination training. Thanks so much for being here.
Today's goal, first, is to recognize harassment, know how to report harassment, and what to expect from After School Matters. Supervisors, understand your obligation to prevent, report, and respond to harassment. Consider causes of harassment and steps we can all take to intervene. We're going to focus on harassment today. To simply put, harassment is unwelcome behavior based on protected characteristics that meet certain thresholds. Discrimination is a little bit different. Discrimination is an adverse action based on protected characteristics. Adverse action can mean being terminated, not being selected for a promotion, or being given less favorable shifts or tasks. What harassment and discrimination have in common is they both related to a protected characteristics. The green boxes are the protected characteristic here in Chicago from federal, state, and local rules. For instance, someone could be harassed about their religion or citizenship status. Today, we're going to focus on one type of harassment, sexual harassment. Although after school matters reporting and investigation process are the same for all kinds of harassment and discrimination. And my colleague will be talking about the next slide.
Harassment, including sexual harassment, is prohibited by ASM, the state, and the federal government. But ending harassment isn't just about laws and policies, it's also the right thing to do. The hashtag #MeToo movement brought home how pervasive and devastating sexual harassment can be and how we all have a role in ending it. The first step to ending sexual harassment is making sure we all know what it is.
After school matter wants to end all kinds of difficult workplace condition, whether or not they qualify as an harassment under the Illinois law. But we do want to explain how Illinois law works. On this page, under the Illinois Human Rights Act, sexual harassment means any unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or any conduct of a sexual nature when submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly in term or condition of individual's employment. Submission to or rejection of such conduct by individual is used as the basis for employment decision affecting such individual. And lastly, such conduct has the purpose or effect of substantially interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment. There's a lot of information here, I know, but let's frame this in two types of sexual harassment. The first type of sexual harassment is quid pro quo. It really means this for that. It means that a manager can tell an employee that they must do something sexually in order to receive something good, like a promotion, a raise, preferred assignment, or other type of job benefit. Two, or to avoid something negative, like a discipline or unpleasant assignment. The second type of harassment is hostile work environment. This may occur when an unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other sexual conduct has the purpose or effect substantially interfering with an individual's work performance or creating a work environment that reasonable people would find intimidating, hostile, or offensive. Usually this means the conduct is severe or pervasive. Work environment is anywhere you do work, not just at after school matter building. Sexual harassment involves unwelcome sexual conduct. Target then solicit or invite it, or target views it as undesirable offense. Harassment is a difficult is the excuse me. Harassment is the fault of the harasser, not the target. Welcome behavior can become unwelcome quickly. Consent can be revoked at any time. Now let's talk about how we can perpetrate and be a target of sexual harassment. The perpetrator is the person who commits the sexual harassment. It can be a manager, coworker, vendor, contractor, delivery person, or any one employee interact at work. For instance, security guards, cleaning staff, or a community-based staff. We sometimes use the word targets to describe the person, people that harassment is directed towards, since not everyone wants to be called a victim. The harassment can impact people while witness the harassment and warrant its target. Also, sometimes there isn't an intended target, like when an employee displays a sexual offensive image at their desk. Those people can also be victim of sexual harassment. Other people who perform services for after-school matters, even if they aren't employees, can also be victim. So we're using both terms today. A person can be a target of sexual harassment regardless of gender, sexuality, orientation of the target or perpetrator. Sexual harassment can be verbal. Words can say pressure for sexual favors or to go out on a date, sexual teasing or jokes or questions, referring to someone as girl, Hank, doll, babe, turning work discussion to a sexual topics, so on and so forth, telling lies or spreading rumors about person's sex life. Sexual harassment can be nonverbal as well. Things that you do, deliberate touching, leaning over, or cornering another person, for example. Um, Sexual looks or gesture, or whistling at someone, kissing sounds, howling, so on and so forth. Actual or attempted rape or sexual harassment. And sexual harassment can happen after work and outside of the office building, like at a holiday party, a business trip, or even online after work, like sending sexual emails or texts, flirting and requesting or demands to go on a date or have sex, sending inappropriate pictures or videos, including sexual graphic material, so on and so forth. Although we're focusing on sexual harassment today, remember that harassment can occur for any protected trait, slurs or nicknames related to sexual orientation or gender identity, jokes about pregnancy, comments about religious or cultural clothing or expression. It can feel exhausting to hear all those reprehensible conduct. One question that comes to mind is, why do people doing those things? And what is it about the world that makes people engage in sexual harassment? This graphic shows how sexual harassment, assault, and discrimination are just the tip of the iceberg. They are made possible by cultural norms, attitudes, beliefs, and less visible experience. For instance, microaggression. Microaggression are intentional, subtle discrimination that add up over time and create a large toll. Double blind. Sometimes women can't win. They're perceived as aggressive, rude if they behave with confidence, but incompetent if they follow the traditional gender norms. Stereotype. This stereotype threat is the fear of conforming to a stereotype, which create stress that hinder performance. Gender Gender partition refers to barriers like pence rules, where mentors' opportunities are limited due to fear of perceived inappropriateness. Meritocracy myth is the belief that skill accounts for all the difference in achievement rather than thinking about networks, advocacy, social factors, and other systematic factors. Unconscious bias is another example. Even when cultural norms make it no longer okay to express your sexist belief out loud. Those beliefs can persist. Benevolent sexism is when we think we're being helpful but still perpetuating stereotypes like holding the door open only for women. Question: how is masculinity performed in the US? And how do those gender stereotypes create conditions that foster sexual harassment? It's not possible to eliminate all of these factors by ourselves or overnight. So, in the meantime, we need employees to feel empowered to report harassment if it does occur. After School Matter wants to know if you experience or hear anything that might be harassment, because we value respect work environment and we can address problems that we don't hear about. We give you options about how to report that so that you can pick what's more comfortable for you, either HR, your manager, or someone else in the management team, or a whistleblower line. Supervisors and managers have special responsibilities. This includes anybody with oversight of other staff, including interns, instructors, managers. You must always report complaints you receive and incidents that you witness or hear about. Report even if your gut reaction is that allegation is not warranted. Don't wait for complaint if you personally observe something. Don't make matters into your own hands. Be open to hearing what someone has to say. You shouldn't probe or do your own investigation, but you should express openness. Thanks for telling me, and let's make sure we inform HR or management so they can follow up, as opposed to, that doesn't sound serious. Tell them something, tell them what's next. You'll report to HR or management. Don't promise confidentiality. We'll keep everything on a need to know basis, but a thorough investigation often requires disclosure. It's okay for them to tell anyone they want to, like their officer or CEO. Don't stop them. And remember that as a manager, you still need to report the harassment. Report can also occur outside of after school matters. Employees are permitted to file charges through the relevant department with the states or federal governments, and they can call a state helpline. Remedies can vary and include things like back pay damages, attorney fees, and through the federal process, punitive damages. Regardless of whether the complaint is internal or external, retaliation is prohibited. Employees will not be tolerated badly because they filed a harassment complaint or cooperated in investigation. At After School Matters would never tolerate retaliation, and it's illegal. Retaliation could look like termination, demotion, reduced pay, or getting unfavorable work. Supervisor can be liable as well. Most importantly, this protection against retaliation applies even if the complaint is found to have no merits, even if the harassment didn't really occur. We still cannot retaliate against a person for making complaint. Next, we'll share ASM's responsibility, which includes duties for a manager. First, if a manager or a supervisor harasses someone, ASM is legally responsible, even if nobody else knew about the conduct, and even if they're harassing someone they didn't supervise. This means supervisors are held to high standards. Two, when anyone else is the harasser, ASM is liable if we knew or should have known and didn't act. Supervisors are held to higher standards. They can also be personally liable. Now, let's talk about three types of responsibilities: prevention, investigation, and correction. After School Matters responsibility. First is prevention. Ensure staff knows what's prohibited and consequences of violating the policy, providing training and clarity about prevention and reporting. Part of employers' responsibility is responsibilities of managers and supervisors because they're acting on behalf of after-school matters. Managers and supervisors first monitor to ensure a workplace is free of harassment. Be aware of conduct within your supervision. Lead by example and model appropriate conduct. When HR or legal finds out about a complaint, we always investigate. Investigation means promptly respond to complaint, interview complaints, victims, and take reasonable action to prevent retaliation, further harassment during the investigation. Interview relevant witness, interview alleged perpetrator, document investigation, and maintain those in the file. Managers and supervisor, be available, make your staff available, and provide as much as you can. The corrective action depends on the circumstance. It may include disciplinary action up to and including termination, counseling and training, and close supervision, reducing the likelihood of future incident via training, updating, and communicating policies. Following up with complaints regularly to ensure workplace remains free of harassment. Managers, don't retaliate against staff who file a complaint or participate in an investigation. Work with HR to ensure victim is not adversely affected, harassment stops, and harassment does not recur.
Bystanders are people witnessing an event. When bystanders watch and say nothing, perpetrators get the message that there is no opposition to their views and that other people find it permissible. When bystanders step up, they can send the message that this conduct is not acceptable. They can also make the situation safer for the target and provide them with support. Often we say nothing and hope somebody else will be braver. But if we want things to change, it's up to each of us to act. Here are 3 guidelines. Only intervene if you can stay safe. Keep in mind that safety is different than comfort. It's probably going to feel awkward to intervene, but you can still do the right thing even when it's awkward. Stand up for what's right, but never make the situation worse for the target. For example, avoid arguments that throw fuel on the fire. The easiest time to intervene is early on when we witness small acts of disrespect. Often we don't intervene then because we're not sure if it's bad enough. But if you were the one being disrespected, wouldn't you want someone to have your back now? If we don't speak up early on, it gets more intimidating later on, and the disrespectful person might feel more empowered by then. How exactly can you intervene as a bystander? We have 4 strategies. As a bystander, you might try the direct response approach. Direct response is a message directed to the offender. It's quick, it's to the point, and it's not a debate. It's not an accusation either, like, you're sexist. Instead, it's something like, that's not funny, come on, don't say that, or that's enough, Joe. A benefit of the direct response is that it'll send a message to everyone who's watching. Our community doesn't tolerate that behavior. Distract. To distract means you're creating an escape route for the target. If you're at a table, you could abruptly change the subject, or you could create a commotion by knocking over your water bottle. One strategy that works well is to say to the target, hey, can you come here? I need your help on something. That'll get them out of the line of fire. Delegate. To delegate means to get backup by alerting your supervisor, HR, or security. Intervening in the moment is helpful in that it sets the tone for observers, but you might freeze or you might decide it's unsafe. You can still address the situation later. You can reach out to the target and ask how you can support them, or you can have a private conversation later on with the perpetrator and say, hey, I heard you call your coworker baby, and that's not okay here at After School Matters. These options are not mutually exclusive, so pick several and especially remember to report to human resources or your management.
Thank you, Jessica. So now, in closing, how do you support your colleagues and how do you like to be supported? If you have any questions or any concerns, please contact HR. Thank you and have a wonderful session.